best of fives here this weekend, and here is a look at your bracket for the Phase 3 playoffs. The Atlantis Leviathans await the winner of our first matchup. That's the Bolts versus the Dragons. As mentioned, Tartarus Titans on the other end of that bracket will be awaiting the Camelot Kings versus the Solar Scarabs. If I remember correctly, this was chosen by the seeding of these teams. And so the Leviathan. You talk about the need to adapt. I know Book of the Dead is a big topic of conversation here as of late. The buffs to Zeus, maybe parallel buffs, not direct to Opwash, but some of the itemization changing maybe makes him a more interesting pick. Do you feel strongly that between Ven and Hurrywind, one or the other is better equipped to handle these changes, to adapt to the differences that a big mid lane shift brings?
Yeah, every time there's a large meta shift, it's going to favor one player more so than another, right? You've got your own natural inclinations on style of play as well as god choices. And between these two mid laners, and I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, I think that Hurrywind is not going to enjoy this meta as much as Ven will.
Sure.
Again, Hurrywind likes playing those assassin-style picks where you kind of skirts around the edge of these team fights, where you walk through walls and you throw out unstable vortexes. I'm talking about Yanis. Whereas Ven, I think, a little bit has a higher propensity to get his hands dirty inside of these engagements. So if I had to favor one going into this one with zero data, legitimately zero data, I don't watch the scrims.
Right.
This is our first look at this meta in competitive. I'd probably favor the Bolts.
You're not gleaning anything from our playtest in studio yesterday, Miff? You're not pulling any meta data out from our playtest?
Who were the mid laners? Was it Jithens and Vinny? No, I didn't learn anything from that.
We had a lot of Scylla. Actually, we did have a Zeus, so and to be clear, we're expecting in some capacity Zeus at some point this weekend. Speaking of Jithens, he's hanging out in the player booth.
Hey,
there,
keep your eyes peeled. You'll see Vinny, too.
Yeah, Vinny will be the mid lane. We're getting away from Jithens as well. The man on camera. Look, you're right. There's maybe some bad blood between Vinny and Jithens after what happened yesterday. Just kidding. No, let's reroute ourselves here in this matchup because as far as bans go, Miff, not much has changed directly from what we saw on the group stages. Daji, admittedly, a little bit surprising for me, though, to see in the first six.
Yeah, Daji is interesting. Maybe just a call-out ban here to the Bolts saying, hey, you're going to have to work a little bit harder to facilitate some of these picks. That's another change I wasn't expecting to see so early on. Achilles, first off for the Jade Dragons, has flex potential, can go into the solo lane. Yep. He's at a very aggressive solo pick, so with the axe changes as well, could potentially find some first bloods over there. Or if he heads into the jungle, I mean, Assassin Achilles is generally just good. I'm surprised we haven't seen that much of it.
And this, maybe it is only really relevant to Achilles out of the solo lane, but Sigil itself receiving some tweaks, some buffs here as of late.
It goes so hard.
Feels
Infused
good.
Sigil is so good.
What, say again?
Infused Sigil is just so good now.
It is, right? And the damage feels a little bit better, so we'll see where this Achilles ends up landing. I believe in the back of that shot I saw Ro as well for the Olympus Bolts.
Local,
that's right. Look, it's such an exciting time. Not only is it just the best time of year for Smite anyway. Look, I love the regular season. So many storylines build up over the course of the year. But when you get to this late season Smite, every single matchup's so important. And now, given the way that the last 1.8 years have gone, we finally have every matchup in studio over the course of the Phase 3 playoffs. All the players are here. The coaches are here. I love this time of year, and Smite is getting back to feeling like it's at its best here in the SPL, and the Phase 3 playoffs came at just the right time. But healing apparently didn't go anywhere, Miff. Aphrodite and Camazotz both locked in here for the Olympus Bolts. Both of those picks pretty popular throughout the group stages.
Yeah, I mean, if you cover up the team name, it could just be a Tartarus Titans draft, right? That is very hard to deal with. It still is incredibly strong. Lotus Crown sees a slight adjustment, though, so maybe Aphrodite takes a little bit longer to come online, gets an additional gold cost on that item, but only 100. You're not feeling so bad about that. Camazotz is going to be meta resistant just because he's incredibly safe out of the jungle and has a high damage output. But maybe more interesting to talk about is Zeus. He's been locked in, and I'm not going to question it because he's just good with these new builds.
Right. If this was 2 weeks ago, we were losing our minds and assuming that the Jade Dragons are just going to lose this game.
Agreed.
Right, in general. But now Zeus at a point with some recent changes where you have admitted, Miff, feels good. This God feels better, and we're still raising our eyebrows. This is a good heat check for Zeus and where he stands. There's a difference between feeling good in our play test and feeling good at the highest competitive level. That said, I imagine you have some confidence in Hurrywind and his ability to play this pick after some recent changes.
And for those of you who aren't completely in the know or haven't fully read the patch notes, Zeus now gets 20% additional attack speed and movement speed at rank 1 of Aegis Shield. That's his second ability, and it's only active that you only get those stems as long as the shield is no longer in his hand. That scales up to 40% both ways when that ability is maxed out. Wild. Just a wild stat stick, essentially. And how are you initiating every single fight on Zeus? Probably by tossing the shield out first.
Right, you want to throw it out.
Yeah, you don't want that. So you're almost always going to have that benefit, as well as some of the changes to the mage builds. You got Book of the Dead. So there's a Nike on the other side, but there might as well be a Nike on both sides because the Jade Dragons mid laner is just going to have massive health shields the second he finishes that item.
Yep, mid lane going to be pivotal here, as it is in every matchup, but you look at the differences now that we have. You have Aphrodite on one side for Ven, Zeus on the other side for Hurrywind, damage-centric for the Jade Dragons, and you mentioned it there, Myth Facilitator style for the Olympus Bolts. Second wave of bans roll on through. Sylvanas and Serket both taken away. Surprisingly, I guess Camazot's already there, and so that's likely Lasbra's pick now that Nike is locked in as well. So Lasbra wouldn't have been playing the Serket, but that's something Sanford Soccer certainly can play. On the flip side of the coin, the Jade Dragons will not deal with the Xing Chen or the Ymir, but they're going to have a Khepri in their way. And this is an obnoxious team comp that the Olympus Bolts are building. You've got an Undying Love already from the Aphrodite. Throw on a Scarab's Blessing towards the end of that team fight, and one of these carries, whether it's Camazot's or whatever Hunter ends up getting locked in, is going to be very, very difficult to kill off.
But the Jade Dragons have some answers to that revive. Achilles on the other end has an execute, so you have to play a little bit more intelligently around this Khepri, but I think you latch onto the right thing, man. The Olympus Bolts have got themselves a very, very, very quadruple very annoying composition, man. This is Tartarus Titan's blood through and through. Aphrodite through mid is going to be incredibly hard to lock down, always attached to a Camazot, so he's allowed to dive very consistently. Camazot's has decent matchup into Zeus. It's very similar to Sanctified Field or the matchup in an Oleron, in that Zeus is going to drop that Ring of Lightning. And Camazot says, word, I'm going to remove myself from the play field, but simultaneously deal immense damage to you.
Right. And look, if there's a team that you can emulate and feel good about, it's the Tartarus Titans. The Bolts not far off here with their draft strategy, but look at what the Jade Dragons have selected here with their final 2 picks. Sam has been a move against the current style of jungler in the past. When the Warriors were all the rage, it still felt like the guy was making the Assassins work. Obviously, he's enjoyed the Assassin meta, but we'll still stick with the Warriors, apparently, despite how good some of these Assassin picks and those builds end up feeling. So, with the Achilles and the Osiris locked in, one will be solo, one will be jungle, and then the Ganesh in support for Polar Bear Mike. And so you got a Ganesh Hachiman duo lane here for the Jade Dragons. And that has been an avenue where the Dragons have found pressure in the past. Out of that duo lane, you send Mike on a rotation. Do you think Ganesh has that ability?
I'm not a massive fan of Ganesh for ganking lanes, but I think
for ganking lanes. I thought you just said in general.
No, I like Ganesh in general. He's got the highest damaging ability in the game, as well as consistent silence, which means that Camazot's, if he is going to be trying to utilize that ultimate aggressively, is going to have to worry about this Ganesh hovering nearby. But the Jade Dragons...
How do you kill this Charybdis?
Oh, you don't. We knew that. Undying Love plus, Scarab's Blessing plus Charybdis.
Charybdis, right.
Yeah, and then you've got a health shield on Nike, and Camazot's removes himself from the playfield.
Is this the Bolts? Oh my God. Is this the Bolts, like, moving all of their chips onto Barracuda's square here?
I've tried a lot of different starters. The Warriors Axe 1 did not feel quite as good to me. I don't think he needs the Sands of Time or the Conduit Gem or the Vamp Shroud or anything like that. I'm a huge fan of the Gilded Arrow to try and make sure that you are double dipping on that attack speed a little bit and really paying off whenever you proc it on your shield as well. But overall, I don't think you can go wrong as long as you're going Book of Thoth and Book of the Dead basically back to back.
And he's already got a book online, so he's going to be waiting to get to the tier 3s, things like that. But expect to see those builds coming out. Aggro, look, he's resident Zeus expert. He's been pushing for this for years. Various and sundry changes for him. Finally, we get one. I will admit, I didn't know how much I was expecting to see him, but it's going to be a good look. Osiris as well, back in the jungle. I almost expected it to be this Achilles. We'll see if anything happens over here on the right-hand lane.
Yeah,
just because this Camazotz has been a huge part. I think the jungle matchup here is going to be large for both of these teams.
So the Bolts just gave up both mids and oracles. And this is what Zeus does, is that the mid pressure it provides you is really crazy. It gives you a ton of extra pressure in the mid lane. His level 1 becomes a lot better with the change. His level 2 becomes very strong, and that should be the barometer for how Zeus is doing in the early game. Is how many sets of mid harpies have we gotten through 3 minutes? They haven't missed one, and that's a good sign for the Jade Dragons. And I think that this is the survivability of the Olympus Bolts draft certainly should be a concern for the Dragons. But if I'm on the Bolts, I'm a little worried about like killing people. I don't know how you do it, because Book of the Dead makes you a lot more survivable.
You can survive a lot, but we'll see if Haddix can do it. He just had to drop the Sentinel of Zeus. A good leap out, but followed through by Sam, and Sam gets the first blood. Now the chase down is on for Lasber. The Camazotz not yet level 5. Fine, okay, just ticked over. They're not going to be able to find it before he gets to that tier 2. That's going to fall apart, just like Jake is on the other side of the map. Another kill for the Dragons. A great ult by Mike to lock away the Kepler.
Love this aggressiveness from the Dragons early. I mean, Fine OK sets that up for Sam so easily. Sam led straight to Lasbra by that ultimate. Haddix maybe does his jungler a little bit of a disservice. Your other abilities help you burn objectives as well. So I'm a big fan of just leaving my points into the ultimate until later, because I think you get more utility out of the rest of the kit.
You know, we haven't touched on it too much, but kind of CC light on the Bolts. And the only reason I noticed it is because Hurrywin's only gone for the Aegis. Ult dropped by both Ganesh and Zeus here in mid. Mike and Hurrywin trying to get something started, but not going to be able to find it.
They've also had games that start this way, and then they make bad objective calls or aren't there for objectives, and teams can come back in. And the Bolts have been good at turning games like this around in the past, so it's not over. But I favor the Dragons quite a bit. This is gone, by the way. See ya.
Yeah, 2 ults drop down very easily. A Dharmic Pillars, and nice letting the Heavens rage. What is Zeus's ult called? It's been so long since I've had to say it.
It's a complicated one here, Dora. It's a lightning storm.
Oh, you know what? That makes a lot of sense.
To not take the win there. It's not even a loss, right? You still force them to 4-way split a red buff. It's just that you didn't get it. And accepting that and knowing that that is okay for you to do in that situation is a good adjustment.
Well, a big grouping from the Bolts around this Pyromancer, something that they typically lean towards for their first objective, although they've lost out on one of them already to the Dragons. They lost out on that Gold Fury as well. The Dragons meet them in kind, at least in terms of power and pure number presence. It doesn't seem like a big fight's going to break out, but with the way the Dragons are starting to move, they want to start something. It's coming up around these ults. They've got one for Zeus, they've got one for PBM. They're just waiting for the Bolts to take one step too far forward.
I wonder if they want Panda to rotate to this. It looks like he's shading his way over, but won't get here in time.
Yeah, Lasbra's in the back line. There's a lot of damage onto Zeus, but just like you said, he seems to ignore it. It's Fine OK instead who's going to be in trouble. He gets pulled in, and the damage is there, but he's going to get out alive. It's Hurrywin who finds a kill onto Lasbra. They're looking for more lockdown on top of that. Haddix saved by the bell. So many healers, so many shields, and he's going to be able to walk out alive. But it is still a dangerous game for the Bolts.
And Zeus damage is not single target. It is spread throughout a team fight. So even if Ven and Jake are looking at 2 different people for who to use their ultimates on to survive, there's a way that one slips through the cracks. And right there it was Lasbra. Never even got a chance to get up into his ultimate.
Yeah, you still have Vin and Jake with their ultimates available.
That's going to be a lot of damage.
That is a lot of damage that bounces off. Yeah, Vin forced to run away as of right now, and is not going to be able to do anything. Pyromancer goes down. Dragons further their lead even more. 7,000 gold.
Chain Lightnings, they can poke you out, but they have an Afro on the other side, so that shouldn't be a huge deal. I wonder if the Dragons really want to be taking this fight right now, because they're really close to a big power spike for Hurry in particular. I think if I were in Hurry's shoes, you know, I'm down to slow down their farm a little bit, but I really want to get my Soul Reaver before we fight again. Can we, Doug, if we could check his golden hand right now to see how close he is. So he's pretty close. I think I'd back off of this and just let Hurry get his Soul Reaver first. Re-up on your wards and try again.
Yeah, I mean, they've got insane ward coverage. They might just go for a fight on the Barra, though. He's been caught out. Luckily, he's Charybdis. That's going to be some immunity to get them out of there. But Dharmic Pillars, so well placed. It's going to get credit to PandaCat. But that was all Mike all day.
And good patience from Hurry as well. Didn't pull the trucker horn on the detonate until after Whirlpool form was done. She'd be immune if he hit it then, but she still holds the charges until she's back up.
Now this Fire Giant seems a lot more appetizing than it did just a couple of minutes ago. They're going to burn through this one, no problem. And the Jade Dragons have it on 5, ready and set up. 21.5 minutes in, 9K gold in their pockets, and they are looking to knock down these last couple of towers.
Yeah, and I don't know if the Dharmic pillars like bumped Jake out of the way. We actually get a replay, which is perfect because Jake obviously wants to be getting the Scarab's Blessing off onto Barra right here. He's looking right at him. He just didn't expect the burst damage. Yeah, I think he lost him a little bit there. Tried to shell instead, it looked like.
Gold,
But
one tier 2 left standing here for the Bolts. All 3 Phoenixes that are still alive. The group is on left side here for the Dragons. They're going to go ahead and start aggressing into it. Lots of ward coverage, so the Bolts know where they are and will potentially be able to find a gank. I'd say keep your eyes on Lazarus.
yeah, Lazarus got to try and find something. He and Barra have been nothing but viewers for this game so far. Really have not been able to participate whatsoever. Lazarus really not close to dealing enough damage to threaten Hurry at all at this position.
Can't do much against Fine OK and Sam either, so they're going to get aggressive onto 2 Phoenixes. The Dragons are putting pressure on left. It's getting burned down fast thanks to Panda Cat. They're going to get some damage, but Panda Cat gets left onto the Phoenix for a little bit.
Wow.
He still stands here for the Bolts. They do a good grouping, and they repel it, but doesn't seem like they're going to be able to do that again.
Panda is just an alpha male, man. He gets stunned by Ben, and he just sits there. I don't got a beast. I'm fine.
Now they're going to get aggressive one more time. Good stun from Fine OK. They're looking for the objective, though. The grouping is there for the Bolts. No ults dropped on the side of the Dragons. No Dharmic Pillars still available for Mike, and that's going to be the blink in. Here's the engage. Sam and Fine immediately to the back line, and the rest of the team just focuses where they need to. They get the left Phoenix, and they start moving towards mid.
Sprint used there by Jake just to make sure, and they probably needed it, but those blinks just in the name of trying to get that objective done. So good work by the Bolts in surviving, but the Jade Dragons got what they wanted.
Hurry's a little low, though. Half
As
health
all.
going into this fight. And now they're going to go ahead and get aggressive. Fine OK immediately to the back line. And guess what? That mid Phoenix goes down just the same way left did. They do exactly what they need. A good zone and Panda Cat with a Fire Giant buff, and that equals 1 dead bird.
Honestly, they have made very few, if any, mistakes so far in this game.
And to catch you up, 26.5 minutes in, only 4 kills on the board that have been necessary so far. And that does not do the justice for what is standing. 2 Phoenixes down for the Bolts, 5 towers still standing for the Dragons. That is how much they are dominating this map control. They get themselves a second Fire Giant for this game, and now they get to go ahead and move towards the last standing Phoenix for the Olympus Bolts. And right now, Venenu, Barra, they're on the other side of the map. This is opening up a lot of opportunities, a lot of map pressure for the Dragons.
They just have only one place to go. The Bolts did a good job of pushing up that left wave, and that could delay the Dragons for a little bit. They could theoretically wait until that fire wave pushes, but I think as long as your mid wave is pushing, you're probably fine, and Sam's doing a good job taking care of that. So the Dragons, as long as they don't allow, their target selection to go totally awry in this fight, I just don't see how they get killed.
And the good news is they've got 4 minutes to work with. Venenu eats so much damage at the very beginning of that fight, but holds onto the ult, holds onto the relics, and is still alive as of right now. Healing will be big deal for them. Lazarus caught, and a 1v1 could turn 1v2, depending on where Sam decides to turn his eyes, but it is the right-hand Phoenix that the Dragons want, and very similar to what they did with the last 2. They're going to go forward with Fine OK. He's going to zone him out, and Panda Cat's going to go ahead and knock it down.
So when are we fighting? If you're the Olympus Bolts, like where do we make the play? Because this is now 3 Phoenixes down, and they haven't forced a relic yet from the Jade Dragons. I don't think Hurry has used beads or Aegis once this game. I don't think Panda Cat has used beads or Aegis once this game. Fine OK used his beads once, and I really feel like that's it as far as defensive relic usage. Like Mike met it in lane. Other than that, it has just been complete domination.
Speaking of Mike, he's going to go ahead and get aggressive. They seem to want the end here. Lazarus caught out. Fine OK finds the stun. Half health, but he makes it out of there. Sam jumps in, anti-heal applied to Venenu, and they're going to get the damage out there. This Titan's burning before the Bolts can even do anything about it. And the Smite game just happens to them. The Dragons win.
They're the Renegades. If they start to fall behind, if they're not on the right footing, they simply will not draw a line in the sand. And, well, it happens here today in Game 1. From the Jade Dragons, but it's due to some great plays from the Jade Dragons. Early game, just kind of utilizing some of this high pressure picks. Panda Cat somehow just keeping 2 people inside the tower on his own. Hurry win. I don't think a single point that game. Procced his Book of the Dead, by the way. I don't think he was ever dropped to like 40% HP.
I was hoping it would happen on this clip, but nope.
No, he's chilling, man. The Olympus Bolts didn't show up in this one, and the Jade Dragons did.
What a combo that Dharmic Pillars plus Lightning Storm
it's
is,
good.
right? Because think about that, where some of the play around of the Dharmic, that's incredible by Mike. Some of the counter play, that's not really a counter, but ways that you can avoid the Dharmic Pillar, you just kind of chill in the middle, wait for it to wear out. Hurriwan just walks forward and drops his ult in the center of the Dharmic Pillar, so either you're walking out of the walls and getting ticked and prop shredded, or you're standing in the middle and getting destroyed by Lightning. Yeah, the KDAs aren't going to tell you anything all that exciting here this game. We knew there was going to be some safety for the Bolts.
Oh my God.
Ven didn't die at all, but everyone else on the team did. 18,000 damage from Hurriwind, and then a fantastic first game performance from FineOK. 17,000 damage there for himself. Seems like Zeus is in an alright spot here, Myth, at least screen we've had so far, and it's the Smite Maxonomic Chair. I do want an update at some point on Ven's. He's got one of those bottles of water that have the ticker marks, like at 10 a.m. you need to have drank this much water, at 11 a.m. you need to have this much, and it looked like he was already like halfway through. So I think Ven, if nothing else, feeling plenty hydrated going into game number 2 of this set. And this was the original concern that we brought up going into game 1, was if the Jade Dragons start to get those wheels turning, start to build up some momentum, that's a buzzword you're going to hear plenty this weekend. The Jade Dragons can just kind of run away with the set. Suddenly this game 2, wildly important. You go down 0-2 to the Jade Dragons like very, very quickly in this best-of-5 set. I'm hard-pressed to feel comfortable in a 3-game sweep up against this Dragons team. That said, important adjustments made by the Olympus Bolts. Not only Zeus, but also the Achilles both banned out. Whereas on the flip side, the Jade Dragons stick with the norm. And hey, Miff, you know what the win rate is of Yamoja when she's first picked?
80%.
I think it was like 80 or 88% or something like that.
Oh, look, man, I thought you knew.
Yeah, I think it was 88%.
Oh, okay,
anyway,
cool.
Jade Dragons will first pick this Yamoja, give it over to Mike, and a good chance to improve on that win rate.
Yeah, Yamoja is just a very versatile pick. It's not really a flex pick. It is going into the support role, but having some healing, being able to spawn up some walls, great displacement as well as team displacement, so you can maneuver the map incredibly well. A very safe pick to take first up. Whereas the Bolts on the response get themselves some very good aggression early on. Kamazotz is going to be reprised in game 2.
What does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that Lazarus thinks he's got some confidence in that pick,
Okay.
right? That was a uncharacteristic game. And he says, look, I'll do better this time. The Morgan as well should be able to match some of that aggression. But when you're talking about aggression and Jade Dragons are on the screen, if those two get locked in, I don't care what the Bolts fill out the rest of their draft with. It's going to be more W key from the Dragons themselves.
All right. I was hesitating, and my hesitation has paid off. Zhang Kui locked in, and we're going to assume out of the mid lane for Hurriwind here. If it does end up being a mid lane Zhang Kui myth, do you think that this is the style of pick that can synergize with the build that we already saw iterated on? A couple of different avenues, right? It was Breastplate of Valor early for the Aphrodite, whereas the Zeus just kind of went straight into the damage after the Book of the Dead. You think Zhang Kui can synergize with that build path pretty well?
I think that Hurriwind kind of leverages both builds. If he doesn't pull super far ahead like we saw in game 1, he might just go towards Breastplate of Valor even on the Zeus. If this is going to be Zhang Kui mid, I think he probably even more so wants to build up some of that defense. He can play the Unga Bunga style, because that's exactly what Zhang Kui does. But historically, when the Jade Dragons lock in this god, it's not for Hurriwind. It's generally for FineOK.
Right. That's why there's some hesitation here, because Osiris fields Sanford Sakari. Could be solo lane. You know, there's pivot potential, I guess is what we're getting at here for the Jade Dragons. And you're right, though, Myth. These kind of tanky, magical damage dealing, what you would think of as mages.
You can say what I said. Say what I said.
Well, I'm just iterating on what you said. It feels like it would go to FineOK, but because things like the Hades and the Zhang Kui and things like that have gone his way in the past. Just opening up the door to all possibilities here, if that's all. Olympus Bolts, they'll ban out the AMC as well as the Hachiman. A good performance on Hachiman in game 1 from Panda Cat will draw that ban. Jade Dragons change up their priority a little bit here. Remember, it was support bans in the second wave, but Geb already picked here for Awesome Jake. That means Olaran and Cthulhu will both take a seat. Can't forget, look, the Bolts had a Titans-esque draft in game 1. Cthulhu plus Morgan would have been another look at it here in game 2.
I think the Morgan plus Kamazotz on its own is enough to get a nod towards the Tartarus Titans for me. As Soul gets locked in, that is likely headed for the long lane. so decent Hunter matchup no matter what. A great deal of safety. To separate, still one of the best abilities in the game, especially considering the performance that we saw from Panda Cat last time. One of the only 4 kill clips we got was him keeping 2 people locked inside of the tower on his own. Well, I mean, you're not going to kill Soul in the tower, unless you're Heimdall, maybe.
Now, Myth, and I jumped on this train with you, so both of us are wrong here. We're talking about how it would be Zhang Kui solo. Looks like it'll be Mulan for Fine OK, Osiris for Sam for Soccer, Zhang Kui mid, then for Hurrywind. Of course, that'll put Panda Cat on Heimdall alongside Polar Bear Mike on the Emoja. Feels like, Mulan got some buffs in recent updates. You train up those abilities a little bit faster. Didn't see a resurgence into the meta in the sense that it is now the overall overwhelming top pick out of the solo lane, but we have seen more Mulan.
I think we're going to continue seeing more and more Mulan. It's been like 6 or 7 patches in a row where she's seen some adjustments, and I think now we've finally hit that tipping point in which she's actually viable and actually incredibly strong. Before the most recent adjustments, the training exercise, leveling up all your abilities, kind of like happened around like level 12. It was a little bit further on in the game. Now you're taking over to like level 7, level 8, 9. Well, you've got your abilities maxed out and you're ready to start getting involved in these team fights. And the passives she's acquire when she levels them up are incredible. The additional attack speed, the healing from the second ability, the raw damage output, some of the itemization changes probably really do help her out a lot as well. I can't imagine how much damage a Warrior's Axe Mulan is doing at like level 3. I think this god is very strong, and I'm expecting to see a lot more of her.
And she's a very difficult lane opponent to go up against. You see the Bolts thinking long and hard about what they want to give Haddix in game number 2 here out of the solo lane. You have to imagine, Myth, and I don't want to harsh on the Bolts, but you almost have to after the way that game 1 went. Any amount of aggression and forward thinking and active decision making in game 2 will feel like an improvement, and having a say on the way that this game goes is what the Bolts need to have. Whether you win or lose, you need to have some sort of say in the direction of the game. Guan Yu ends up being the pick here. That'll go up against the Mulan, something that Haddix can utilize the aggressive play style on very well.
I don't think you can go the new build on the Morrigan. I think that character is too CDR dependent in order to go with the Book of Thoth build. So, and it looks like Ven isn't going for that start at the very least. So he starts off with Lost Artifact. So I'd expect something pretty similar from Ven from the last patch. So that does, I think, bump the Morrigan down a little bit, though. She spends so little time in her base form anyways, whenever it comes to the important team fights, that maybe it doesn't matter too much to her. I think Zhang Kui is very good with the new build. And, it allows him to be that degenerate, aggressive style pick. I say all the time I want Zhang to be able to go blink Aegis. I think he can into this draft, which feels really good. I love this Zhang Kui pick here for Hurry. I think that you can just run at this Morrigan with reckless abandon and let her try and answer. Because, if you force her transform, great. If you don't, cool. I poked her out and won the trade because I've got a lot more sustain in my kit anyways. Dragons, it's only beats for Fine OK. Because Hurry and Panda Cat know how does this Geb get in range to ult us. I think that having that blink for the Geb is still so important in order to make sure you're getting good value out of your Cataclysm that these Aegis pickups, I think, are fairly telling.
Not too worried about him, and that's pretty much the reason. Jake rolls on through the blue buff and immediately turns it around, but blue buff still being hovered around 4 members of the Bolts over here in case a fight breaks out. The Fine OK secures his own buff and seems just happy with that. It was him and PBM, what feels like versus the world. And the world had no response for him. Mike might get caught out here. It might actually be Hurwin. Instead, the ult gets popped by the Zhang Kui. He's got 3 around him. There's the Cataclysm. The Aegis not yet popped, but River's Rebuke comes through. Venenu gets the first blood, and now they're continuing the chase down. Sam is low. Sam gets under the tower. Mike makes sure they disengage. The Bolts only get 1.
Fine OK's here, but doesn't have that blink. Needs to hit the hook, and he does.
And he's able to pull back Jake. The damage seems to be just enough, but the shield is a little bit better. And now Lasbra sees that there's a silver platter.
Ooh!
Moja, but a good amount of peel from Fine OK separates the two, and I can't believe Mike not only walks out, but Fine OK gets a kill?
What? Lasbra just disrespects Fine and his damage, and I swear that happens to me against Mulan every game, where I go, that character did how much damage to me this early on? Just insta-kills Lasbra.
Down Aegis, right. 80-second cooldown, vulnerable for the next couple of seconds. but a very, very good bite back from the Dragons. And Mike walking out of that, I mean, that's got to hurt a little bit.
Yeah, I think every player on the planet wants to just ult Jake if you're a Fight OK in that position. Jake was low. You know, my ultimate could finish him off. I'm going to use it. But nice and patient, prioritizes the right target. And not only does he save Mike's life, but that's what eventually leads to the kill on Lasbra, because that's who we hit with the ultimate to peel. So that's why Fine OK is doing what he's doing, and we're complaining about our rank teams.
Yeah, he's still getting good hooks here, pulling in Haddix and keeping this engage. And there's a big rotation from both the Bolts and the Dragons. Haddix actually turns around to go back in. A good stun. Sam is low and has to leap away. Good Rivers Rebuke for the peel. Make sure the jungler gets out for the Dragons. And now Haddix again in a little bit of trouble. Heroin has joined the fray. It doesn't seem like the Dragons want to fight much.
No, that's still a great play, though, by the Bolts. Much more, willing to turn and take the fight. Ends up being in a really good spot. Forces out 2 ultimates just for the price of 1. And Haddix has so much CDR, and of course the way the Go On You kit works with the cooldown reductions, he's going to have that back quickly. So a really good play there by Haddix.
Fine OK stuck in a 1v2. Now there's a 2v2, Venenu Lasbra versus potentially PBM and Heroin. They are chasing. They're using the Riptide to even close the gap a little bit. It seemed like they wanted a little bit more. Not going to be able to find it. Big rotation for Panda Cat into mid lane. And despite the pressure still being in favor of the Bolts, gold pretty much even at this point, 100 separating the two teams. That's going to change with this tier 1 tower.
Panda Cat gets ulted, but again, doesn't panic, just portals right on out. He's safe and sound. And the Dragons just grouping more effectively, but Sam's in trouble.
Now Lasbra going for the chase down. There's the bat out of hell. Good Cataclysm locks up Sam and keeps him right where the Bolts need him. They kill off the jungler, and that's all they need.
Yeah, there was some ward coverage there on that side of the map from the Dragons, but not in that particular area. Right around the Scorpion and the bottom right mids, that's Bolts controlled. And so Sam kind of moseys on in, expecting no one to be there, but ends up catching a couple members of the Bolts, and Haddix continues to look really good on this Guan Yu.
I would even word it as potentially obnoxious how many wards the Bolts have right there. That is too much vision to me. But it's treating them well. Blue buff dropped by the Bolts, stolen away. Fine OK still looking for the fight. PBM's rotated in. Haddix is the target, but you're in a 2v3. I mean, this is a scenario like you were talking about actually in game number 1. One of those fights that probably just isn't going to go your way. And it seems like they're fine to let it fall to the wayside.
But the Bolts have a clear strategy so far in this game at the very least. As Panda Cat encounters Ven on this purple, and Ven does secure the buff.
Well, good news for Panda Cat. Bifrost exists.
Yeah, that's good.
So he's not in any danger, and he's going to be able to get out of there. Barra gets his purple buff.
2 to say one way or the other, which is a good sign, because by this point in game 1, the game felt kind of over already.
Now, this is definitely not only a much better showing, but they're even potentially taking control of the left-hand side. No, they're not going to start up the Gold Fury. They're going to go ahead and fall back. Ward coverage from the Bolts has been nuts this game, and you can still see a lot of deep wards on the left-hand side. That Gold Fury, they delayed it for a second, but now they're going to start it up. The burn is there, but it's taken them a little bit of time. Half health already for the Gold Fury. Lasberg gets aggressive on the side, but it's Fine OK, who is absolutely controlling the jungler. But that's a 3-man Cataclysm from Jake, trying to control and make sure that the Dragons can't do anything, and that is going to be said for Mike. He is low, and he is out. He stays alive through all of this. Now Lasbra in between 4, bat out of hell forced, but it's going to be Heroin first blood in this encounter, gets rid of Barra, and now they're turning around to fight right back into it. Haddix caught out by 5, and this healing is too strong for the Dragons.
And Sam still has Blink, doesn't need it right away. Slows down Jake, and he's got nowhere to go. The Jade Dragons blank the Bolts in that team fight. And it looked like it was going to be close for a moment, but Yamoja still turns out to be pretty good, by the way. Not a lot of anti-heal there for the Bolts. Those shields come in big for PBM, and the healing as well. Only that Brawlers as the anti-heal option for them, and that really makes a big difference. But again, right as it looks like the Bolts are going to be able to win the fight, they start to collapse. And where do they collapse into? A Zhang Kui. And he goes, great, my time, and just slams 4. And all of a sudden, all the health bars from the Bolts just start chunking down, and they can't keep up their DPS. They don't have the damage to kill Hurry through that Book of the Dead shield, and they just end up losing the team fight. Barra didn't get off a whole lot of effective damage.
Presumably the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, I wonder, the starter item upgrades are coming through on both sides. You've got the Sundering Axe done now for Fine OK. That's a huge deal for him. Ups that damage potential by a significant margin as if he needed it, because he already was pretty much swinging on that pickup. You know, I wonder how big it really matters for Heroin to get his starter item upgrade. Matters a lot for Sam at the very least.
The Pyromancer's been hovering around half health. That's a good Cataclysm, but great River's Rebuke ends up locking up a couple members. Haddix and Jake have to get out of there. Lasbra eats way too much damage and has to fall back immediately. This is a good fight for the Dragons, and they're going to go ahead and take it. A leap in from Sam, gets the anti-heal onto Bera and onto Haddix. The chase down is there. The stun is good, but no kills have surmounted themselves yet. The Dragons finally able to find one. Bera goes down, Haddix goes down. Panda Cat gets a double Vin, forced to run away alongside Lasbra, and this feels like a free fire job.
The Dragons are just a mass of violence running through the enemy jungle, and the Bolts are like, what do we do? You know, how do we combat this? Because the Bolts just, they're trying, you know, Lasbra's trying to flank around the side, Vin's trying to do the same, and the Dragons are just moseying their way on through, saying, come and get us, because you don't have the damage to take us down. There's just not enough damage. And with this build in mid right now, Heroin gets his Book of the Dead procced.
In game number 1. Which I'm going to throw it out there because we have a little bit of time for it. That was the lowest kill count game in SPL history.
Wow.
5 kills.
What a treat for us, huh?
It was Paradigm and Les Myrmidons. It was like a 13-minute surrender in Season 2 way back when. We've seen a couple, like even that, this is what's wild to me. That 2-minute game still had 7 kills in it.
Well, yeah. And if you remember that game, you know why.
If you remember that game, I'm sorry. Either way, hey, the Dragons already grouping up on the left-hand side. Keep your eyes on Lasbra. He's been going for a flank this entire time. It's Jake who gets pulled in.
Great
no
damage.
Chance to do a Cataclysm. A lot of damage thrown his way. The shield keeps him alive. Very similar to what we saw in game 1 from the Dragons.
And again, just death ball. How do you stop it? Bera has to hit a big ult. The only way. That's their only significant AoE.
He's got to do it soon here. The damage is just thrown out. Haddix and Jake. They're lucky they have the healing they do because otherwise they would absolutely be dead or in Fountain. One of the two. This Phoenix is at half health though, slowly getting chunked down. The Dragons are playing this one as safe and patiently as they can. There's the go button from Fino. He gets aggressive, and immediately there's a River's Rebuke, but this works perfectly. It just blocks out the Bolts, and they're going to be able to take this objective no problem.
Oh, Sam nearly just killed Ben outright. Barracuda left to the Wolves, and Hurry has already picked up Haddix.
Yeah, it's already going to start one sent into the skies for another, and now they're just waiting for a kill. Jake is the second on the chopping block. 3 squishy targets remain on the Bolts, and that's going to be 3 targets for the Dragons, but they're going to turn their eyes towards this Phoenix, play it a little safer.
No ults available for the Dragons, so they have to try and play it a little bit more slowly. There's the Book of the Dead proc onto Heroin, so maybe they could eventually kill him, but you're going to need a lot to do so.
It's a 3v5, and they've got a lot of wiggle room here. If they're the Dragons, they're walking forward. Lasbra is caught between 4. Pad out of hell keeps him alive for now. He's getting some good damage turned around. The Titan's half health as of right now, and that's all they need. They're going to hit the go button. Mike is low. Lasbra goes down, and the Dragons win this 9-2.
Man, they are just on point right now.
The Jade get through the first 10 minutes from at least even. That's where their draft is going to hit fruition. That's where they can start to get proactive on the map. And for the first 10 or so minutes, the Olympus Bolts were either even or ahead until this one rotation from Final K kind of squashes that aggression. And then from there, the Jade Dragons reassumed control and did not let go of it. Neutral objectives, permanent objectives, all team fights from that point forward went their way. This team fight in particular actually was a little bit upsetting for Olympus Bolts fans because notice left side Phoenix goes down, and just now the Olympus Bolts were forced to use their ultimates defensively and quickly go to the grayscale afterward.
You know what else feels bad about that particular team fight is the game ends like
10 seconds later.
Like 10 seconds after that. I keep getting impressed by Final K and other. Yeah, this is fun. Panda Cat just tanking up the Titan. Why not? We'll go ahead and end the game here. Final K though, specifically Myth on this Mulan, I think continues to excite me. Especially you look at a player like Nika, a player like Final K. You know, many of the solo laners in this league I think could play these picks well, but Final K specifically, I think is so good at transitioning from that early laning kind of dominant style of play.
Oh my god.
To the engage and setup style of play that you mentioned. I think Final K is so okay.
So he's got a plethora of drafts available. So if the Olympus Bolts want to continually do what they did between games 1 and 2 and take out individual pieces of the Jade Dragons draft, I can tell you right now that it's 3 pages of notes and they're all potential drafts. I don't think, based off my cursory glance, that you can essentially ban out the stratagem that the Jade Dragons are going for here. You have to legitimately beat it.
You've done it now, Miff. You've exposed that Kabam is well prepared.
It's nuts.
I can't believe it.
The level of notes that I saw there, I would have paid name your price to have a coach bring that level of notes for any individual set that I played.
Ro in the player booth with the Olympus Bolts, he is certainly well prepared here for this Bolts team as well. The wheels are turning in the Bolts draft room right now, trying to figure out what they're going to pick that's going to get them back into this set, because we have just not seen much that gives you hope in Game 3 or winning 3 straight, for that matter. That's the big one here. And these best-of-5 sets, you go down 0-2. Now the Bolts you can't drop another one in a set where you already have struggled to even find kills so far in these games. Bans have remained the same from the Jade Dragons. I'd wondered if we'd see a little bit of a pivot, being from first pick over to the second pick now for the first time this set, but Odin, Hell, they're both going to get taken away. Zeus caused enough chaos in Game 1 that even in the first pick slot, the Olympus Bolts aren't going to sneak that one away. They just don't want to deal with it any further. And then Geb will be our final ban here. Umoja, remember, was first pick for the Jade Dragons in Game 2. That is banned out now. So the Bolts will have their pick, but still plenty of power available to give over to the Jade Dragons with the second and third pick in the draft.
Yeah, there is. We could see the Bolts try and prioritize their Guardian, considering there's a couple of priority picks still available. Umoja and Gab already banned out, so maybe Sylvanas and Khepri get a little bit more so of a look, but instead, it's the Achilles. And yet again, we have to highlight the fact that he's got great flex potential on this pick. More than likely headed over towards the solo lane, but can find a home in the jungle. But when we're talking about dominant solo laners, Mulan gets through yet again, and the Jade Dragons, I think, show their hand a little bit here. They're prioritizing it very highly.
Yeah, very early. You know, admittedly, though, I'm not surprised. I mean, it just looked so comfortable for Final K. So much damage, 0 deaths in Game 2. I'm not surprised that the Jade Dragons get it here, in the sense that it has its value for this team. To your point, maybe surprised with how early it is, just because you're showing what you're picking then out of the solo lane. But that maybe shows that Fino is very comfortable with this style of play, regardless of what you do or don't pick into it. With the Osiris locked in, looks like it will be an Achilles solo. Osiris then out of the jungle. Repeat, but this is kind of a flip now. I'm almost tripping myself up here, because it's the Bolts now that are playing this Achilles and this Osiris. Whereas up to this point, we've seen Sanford Soccer on this pick. And so it's going to be something different for Lasbra for the first time this set.
And I'm not wholly sold that it is going to be Osiris in the jungle. I know that that's what we saw from the Jade Dragons, but again, worth noting that Deathtoll sees a very significant buff in this most recent patch, gets additional power. Osiris has cleaves on just about every single one of his auto attacks, so could benefit mightily from the sustain afforded to him in lane thanks to Deathtoll. So there is potential that we see the Olympus Bolts take Osiris into the short lane himself. And on the other end, we know Final K is nuts at Mulan, but even on his team, the Jade Dragons, I think Sanford Soccer is the self-proclaimed best Mulan in the world. He'll say it given every single opportunity, so there is some slight flex potential there as well.
Sanford Soccer, the best Mulan in the world?
Self-proclaimed.
Right, you're not proclaiming that.
Yes.
How heavily do you agree with? I mean, after what you just saw from Final K, I don't know how you can...
I don't agree with him, because what I just saw from Final K.
Right, got it. So Final K is the best Mulan in the world.
Maybe, at least better than Sam.
So there are conversations we're assuming between the Jade Dragons, maybe even an argument, maybe a bit of a tilly.
Let me have it.
Let me have it. No, I want to play it. I'm better than you. No, you got it last game. I want it this game. And that's totally conjecture. Clearly, we have no idea what they're actually saying.
Oh, there are the notes. You can see them in his hands. Look how many notes he's got.
He's exposing himself at this point, right? all of his strategy. But I guess to your point, if you get one small corner look at the notes, you're not revealing anything compared to the sheer amount that he's got.
I'll tell you this right now. I read through all of them, and so far, this draft has been preordained. I'm not going to call out the last pick.
Ordained, that's a very,
Preordained by Kabam.
Right, so we're putting Kabam into, theological tiers here, right?
Yes.
He's hovering around the room.
The patron saint of P's and B's for the Jade Dragons.
Kabam. Hey, it's worked out for them so far here in this set. If the Jade Dragons have it their way, they'll get the quick 3-0. They'll head home. They'll watch the next game that we've got here today with ease. The Olympus Bolts. Not a team that'll make it easy on you. Remember, earlier back in the group stages, the Bolts go down to the Scarabs 0-2 early in that set. And then there's some pushback back and forth. Some head scratchers here, Miff. Some surprising oohs and ahs from the crowd as Ra gets locked in. And then X-Ball has hovered, and we wondered if we'd see some Jabalanke. And we will. So some unique carry picks for the Olympus Bolts in a must-win Game 3.
The Olympus Bolts have brought a completely different style of draft here in Game 3. It's aggression
Good,
across the
right?
board. Yeah, that's what you need to see because that's where they've been losing out in a lot of these engagements. Achilles and Osiris, very high-pressure gods. Ymir and Shibalanke together in lane have some insane kill
Sam for
potential.
soccer because he's playing Fenrir, and this is an unbelievable pick for the Jade Dragons. Like, Sam should be going over and shaking Kabam's hand and saying, "Thank you, sir, for setting me up to be able to grab this pick." I mean, these are two picks that just get absolutely demolished by Fenrir. And Fenrir has seen a lot of compositions where, you know, he doesn't get as much brutalized value, but you love him for the Ragnarok, so you just end up going with it anyways. This is brutalized value. Sam should just be maxing the 3, walking at Bara, walking at Ven, popping his 2 and pressing 3 on that person and killing him, because that's what's going to happen. And you could do it to Lasbra on the Osiris as well. Like, this Fenrir pick, I think Sam has the opportunity to absolutely dominate this game. And if he does, then the Dragons are going to sweep it.
Yeah, this is going to be a good look for Sam. We'll have to see if they're able to find the response. Mulan, last game, was the bully. This time is getting bullied, at least a little bit,
Lots
here
of
by
beads.
Haddix. That's a big deal, not having those beads. The Osiris on the other side, we've already started to see Lasbra getting a little more impactful, and that's what you wanted to see. At the end of Game 2, you said, you know what? Let's retire the Camazotz. Let's move on to something else. This Osiris has treated Sam well this set.
It's been very good. I like taking it away. I think that's a good adaptation by Ro and the Olympus Bolts. They've got the best secure on the map and great steal potential with this Raw ultimate. So for me, the story is number 1, Sam for soccer, but number 2, objective focus for these teams and how well the Bolts can mess with that.
Just a little off the mark there from Jake. The wall down, the freeze down. That seemed to be the go button for Mike. And Panda Cat, her win's relatively low over here as well. Actually needs to be careful in the event that Venenu, that if he ticked over to 5 or anything like it, could have been endangered. There's going to be another good wall freeze. This was the duo
Jake's
lane.
dead.
That's the question. Yeah, that should be a good enough block.
Oh, he has
blocks.
bad.
Never mind. Yeah, just fine. He's going to walk out of there. Shibalanke is the conversation, I think, in this lane. As much as there is this aggression between the two, you know, we saw Xingqian get a nice big buff. Solo lane going to take precedence over that right now. Fine, okay, slowed down, doubled, and that's going to be the ult to get him out of there. But it's this buff to the Shibalanke that really stands out to me.
Yeah, I think that Shibalanke could
that
be a
damage.
key pick. In goes Bara with that rising Jaguar. But Mike has done a good job peeling away at the very least. Yeah, like I said, on Waiting Room, Sam, the turnaround and look into Ven's eyes, like as if that's going to work, does end up at least surviving. But cost him his blink. I mean, Ven's able to force him back.
Experience away from Bara and Jake.
Yeah, hey, I mean, this is fine, though, for the Jade Dragons. Mike's helping out in mid. They're setting up for another purple buff invade. Could be a full-on 4-on-4, and it doesn't matter that poke on Panda Cat was there.
That's a good leap in from Sam, but a great freeze from Jake, and now a good wall follow-up. That's going to force the Brutalize to be used defensively. Sam's just trying to get out. Lasbra goes in, though, and there's 4 surrounding him. Sam's low.
Wow.
Sam goes down. They trade 1-for-1. Vin just wide, splits the uprights with the ult. And ultimately, they're going to be able to get out, but that is still first blood going the way of Lasbra.
Lasbra just gets so much value out of his beads there. Ends up immuning the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel and the Ragnarok, I think, in order to not end up getting CC'd in that dive, because no beads there for Jake. He wouldn't be able to get out of that CC chain.
And this was such a narrow kill. I mean, there is a world where Lasbra's not able to find this, but he lands perfectly on the
here.
Sam.
Yeah, how does he not get picked? I guess Sam just a little bit too early, but just thought he needed the damage in order to get the kill, and he's probably right. So makes the right call. Those beads did immune both ultimates from both Fenrir and Xingqian, so that's pretty high value, I'd say.
It's immense that you're able to pick up. Haddix is low. Fine, okay. Bullying a little bit over here. That Mulan maybe finally finding that turning point. Lasbra's been hanging out over here, but PBM, Sam, they want a little bit more. Unfortunately, Lasbra's just too far away. Those beads are down for another minute. That's a big opening. Haddix maybe playing a little too aggressive as well. Vin, Jake joining the fray. It's a large grouping in right. And Mike might be the one punished for it. 3-man collapse. There's the freeze. There's the damage. He gets taken to half health. Great wall from Jake. But ultimately, he's still out of there.
Xingqian, man, this character is just impossible to kill. You just can't do.
Definitely slows you down. That has been more or less, actually, like, honestly, the pace of this set. It has not been explosive. 4 kills game 1, 8 kills game 2. Now pushing even further. This is going to be great. Good wall once again, blocked away. Jake ends up getting picked up here, but Sam is not able to find a kill in the duo lane.
Yeah, that meditation comes up huge. That wall was absolutely massive. Jake didn't get the freeze in time, but Sam also didn't land the Unchained, so ends up working out pretty well.
Now Gold Fury started up very early. Gold Fury here compared to what we've seen in the last couple of games. Lasbra sees it, spots it out. Jake's walking forward. Mike goes for the ult, gets the beads from Lasbra. That is a leash from the Dragons. They start to back off. It's a 4-on-4. The solo lane is nowhere to be seen, and now the ults just go ahead and start it up, and the Dragons end up taking that away through the wall, and now they're going to chase him down. They're looking for kills. Lasbra's low, and Jake is gone. The chase is on. But it seems like they are happy with what they took.
Ven just totally mistimed that ultimate. I mean, it was not even close to being there to secure. You got to keep that HP a little bit higher if you want to go for the 1-4 combo. He ones, puts it in steal range, and then easily ripped away.
And unfortunately for them, that just opens up a wide berth for the Dragons. Now 2,000 gold, a red buff invade. They get a kill on the tail end.
And it just hasn't mattered. Looks like it was Hurry who stole it away with that supernova. I mean, this is just mistimed. It's an ult range right there. That one from Ven just can't happen. You know, you're just asking for it to get stolen in that instance. You can't one. You gotta just ult it. Put it in that range, hit the 4, that's gone. If that's a Searing Pain instead of the one, then it's an easy secure. But Ven just got his beams mixed up.
Unfortunate for them. Now the Bolts having to bounce back from behind. Thoth picked up into a breastplate here for Venenu. Haddix in a little bit of trouble. Vin getting locked down. Beats force it. Might not even save your life. You're getting thrown back to the masses. Hurry is just going to wait on it. One more hit is all you need, but Vin's alive. He's still going. Hurry has to drop the ult. Still secures the kill and is able to walk away with his life.
Yeah, that mid wave made that a little harder than it needed to be. Some minions body blocked some autos, but Hurry gets the ultimate up in time, knows that he's got relics and his 3s to be nice and safe, and ends up making it look pretty easy there at the very end. Just needed to not be that easy, I suppose. That was probably not the right turn of phrase for me there, but Ven ends up dying, losing both of his relics, and that's what Xing Chen does. Against these immobile mages, Xing Chen, I think that if Zeus and Opwash and Ra, the types of gods we'll be seeing, we should see Xing Chen alongside them, because those gods just can't kill him fast enough, and he displaces them really well.
Now getting aggressive. Red buff timer is there for the Dragons, so they know exactly what they're doing here. Greater Scorpions on the side of the Bolts as well. So they are getting aggressive, going for the zone. Lasbra, Bara, Vin, Jake, all in the neighborhood. It looks like that's going to be enough. Waiting a little bit too long there for the Dragons. If they back up.
A little surprised.
Hurry's still here.
Yeah, a little surprised that they aren't willing to go aggressive.
Oh my god!
Nice snipe. Hurry's locked in, but Disapparate should be happening. It is, but he's too low now.
Yeah, I don't know if he can get out of there. That's a good stun, good pickup from Lasbra. I expected more of a chase potentially from the Bolts. I mean, he steps forward. That one's more on Hurry than it is anybody else. Good blocking from the Bolts.
Absolutely. Clearly that was not the game plan to go for that red buff invade. I understand why Hurry wants to. He knows Ven has no relics, and we've got a Fenrir. Let's just kill that guy. But if the call is to back up, the call is to back up. And that's a costly mistake, because that gets them back in the game.
Yeah, speaking of back up, FinoK locked down. Great barricades coming out from Jake. Good freeze, good stun, good setup, good kills. And the Bolts find themselves 2 more and match the 3 that the Dragons had.
And look, they're not in the lead. I think the Jade Dragons are still in a good position. But the game was not, it's not over. It wasn't theirs to lose, but it was kind of theirs to lose.
Now we'll see how much they can continue testing that. The lockdown there, trying to find Bara. Mike uses his ult, but gets the beads and the Aegis on the other side. Panda Cat going for the tower. Tower needs one more hit. Panda Cat's half health, though, and has to play this carefully. Sam, with a leap in, misses off Bara, but it doesn't matter because he's got the brutalized. They've got the tower. Panda Cat, credit for the kill. Ult from Jake.
Snipe!
And a snipe there from Vin, but it's not going to be able to find the kill. They're looking for the retreat. Lasbra's in the neighborhood, and he's going to go for the slow onto Heroin. There is a retaliation Ankh coming down from Mike. The setup is good, and the team is here. FinoK has rotated from the solo lane to the duo lane, and he's chasing down Lasbra. No, the shot won't be able to find the kill. Hurry's low. Hurry is executed, and Hurry is taken down. 4 to 4 are the kills. It's a 1-for-1 trade.
Jade Dragons almost able to get out, but Hurry just could not. His positioning coming around the back of that tower to ensure that dive goes effectively, ends up really punishing him in the end. Haddix gets there just in time. Lasbra, good patience with the ultimate. And this should be a much more guaranteed Primal Fury. Venenu's snipe is coming back up. The Jade Dragons don't seem to have many around.
FineOK should be able to notice this one. Primal Fury, half health. He sees it, and he's hanging around. Blinks forward, goes in. Lasbra's still low from the last fight. That could be a kill onto the jungler, but FineOK's not able to find it. Primal Fury gets leashed, and now the fight is set up for the Dragons. They've joined the fray. Mike and PandaCat are here. Haddix taken down to half health. The Dragons have to back away.
Great play from Fine, but a better wall again.
Keeps him locked in. FineOK takes a lot of damage. There's the snipe. There's the damage from Veneno to find the kill. Sam looking for a solo kill. Gets Bera forced away from this fight. Bera has no relic, so that is easy for the Fenrir, but he's low health. They backed off. Primal Fury still available. Full health now as it's recharged. The Bolts are going to go ahead and pull it again. Man,
Jake is making this game winnable for the Olympus Bolts. These walls have been everything. They got the 2 picks that let the Bolts back into it, and right there, that's the wall that sets it up onto FineOK.
Keeps them locked in or locked away, depending on where it is. PandaCat just around the corner. Not going to be able to make it to this one in time. Almost eats some damage on the tail end of it as well. Primal Fury, after a big dance, goes the way of the Bolts.
I think that just as we were talking about in the last 2 games with missing your interaction point, I think that now Sam really only has one viable target for these brutalizes, and that's Bera. I don't think you can do it on event anymore.
And unfortunately, the peel that has been coming through from Jake has been on point to control Sam. And right there is another good example. Beads end up getting used by Haddix. I'll throw it out there while we have the opportunity. Nominated for Rookie of the Year, Haddix, versus nominated for Pro Player of the Year, FineOK. A very stacked solo lane in this game. But it's the mid lane that we're focused on right now. Tier 1 tower gets taken down by the Bolts, and they now have themselves finally a tower advantage. It's been 1-for-1 up to this point. But it now reads 4 standing for the Dragons, 5 up for the Bolts. 20 minutes in the last 2 games, this has been the Dragons going over to the Fire Giant because they are 5K plus up.
Right.
Now, you don't have any gold lead. Nobody has a gold lead. It's like 20 separating these 2 teams, and the fight's going to go ahead and start. PandaCat and Hurrywin already in trouble, health low, but they're going to get out of this one. So far, so safe. PBM locked between the rest of the Bolts, but it's Jake who's taking all the damage, and that's a leap over the wall from Sam. He's going to be able to find the first kill. Now Haddix is the one who's on the chopping block. FineOK helps find that one, and now Lasbra, Bera, Vin can't do anything about it.
And typically, the Olympus Bolts are so good at this stage of the game. They're great at team fighting historically, but today they just have not been able to do anything in these team fights. Yes, just are switching so well. We haven't really called his name enough, but Mike has had an unbelievable set so far. 0-0-6, been a part of every single kill for the Jade Dragons, and he completely stuffed that engagement from the Bolts.
And they're going to play with their timers. They still have 5 seconds left before Haddix even respawns. So it is a 4v5, and Jake's not even here. It's a 3v5. Vin and Bera are in trouble right now. You've got FineOK, Hurry chasing one, and the rest of the team trying to get the other, and that is a great pull from Mike, and they get both of the carries in one fell swoop.
Lasbra, the one left here, and he's like, sorry, bro, I got nothing for you. This Osiris just can't end up frontlining up against all this damage from the Jade Dragons, who just continually are picking apart the Olympus Bolts. The Jade Dragons looking like Phase 1 versions of themselves today.
Feeling exactly as you'd want. If you were a Dragons fan, this last phase has been a rough one for you, but this is exactly how you want to see them kick off the Phase 3 playoffs. Last time these 2 teams played in the playoffs, it was a 3-1 for the Dragons. It would give you some hope if you're the Bolts. But right now, you're staring at a team that has 5 Fire Giants around their belt, and they're controlling a lot of these fights. And it's going to be the Tier 2 and mid that is the primary target. Jake, Haddix are back. They're still waiting for Bear and Vin to respawn. This is free real estate.
I mean, the Bolts just haven't won a 5-on-5 this set. And none of them have been particularly close. Like, every single team fight, the Jade Dragons have absolutely dominated. He should be fine, and he's the main one who has to worry about it.
Well, now this Tier 2 on left. Last tower standing for the Bolts. Yeah, it's no contest. Full Fire Giant team grouping up. Except for Sam, who's hanging out in mid right now, going to be able to push the wave just a little bit. Similar grouping, flipped sides from what we've seen in games 1 and 2, but exactly where you would expect it. Left side Phoenix duo lane starting to get chunked down. Every time the story has been the same. FineOK starts things off, and then PandaCat ignores damage to kill off the bird. We'll see if they can do that here.
Blink in from Haddix, finds PandaCat's beads, and a good reset right away, but does Panda look pressed to you? He certainly doesn't to me.
Yeah, not stressed out. They've got 2 auto attackers as well. That Phoenix is still alive, finally taken down. Mike loses his life for it. Lasbra is in the mix of the Dragons. but they're not able to find the damage or the lockdown necessary. That's a huge kill on the Mike.
Like they can actually compete. Okay, we do get another look. Barra is just shredding him, man. That's a lot of damage coming through from Barracuda. And again, like I said at the very beginning, when you see a fight that looks weird and you don't know what happened, it was probably Xbalanque.
Opener Fire Giant is going to be respawning. It's in its animation as of right now. Lasber's on the left side of the map trying to clear things up. So it is actually 3v5 because Barra's at speed buff right now. And that is going to be an immediate startup from the Dragons. They recognize their advantage, and they're going to utilize it as best they can. They've got 2 auto attackers, a lot of burn. They go ahead and let that leash, trying to grab Haddix, Jake, or Veneno.
19 seconds on Panda Cat's Aegis, and that's why the Jade Dragons, they stepped up. If Lasber's not going to be here, we'll try it. As soon as Haddix steps up and puts a little pressure on them, they back up, give him the respect, and just wait out Panda Cat's beads. And those are up in 3 seconds, so away we go, right back towards the objective.
Start it up, burn it down, see what they can accomplish. Already half health for the Fire Giant. Blink in from Haddix, but he's not able to get anything other than the leap out of Sam. Now the turnaround. Jake is locked up in before, but he's still alive. In fact, he's not taking any damage anymore at all. It's going to be Mike. It's going to be FineOK caught off guard. Lasber forced to leap to get away, and now FineOK's in the midst of it alongside Sam. Barra gets picked up. Barra uses his beads, but Barra is down. Finn tries to stay alive. Book of the Dead shield keeps him going, and he's walking away. But that's more than you can say for Haddix and the rest of the Bolts, all limping back to base with their health bars. 2 kills for the Dragons, and it should be a Fire Giant.
Mike and the rest of the Dragons, their front line is just dominating these fights. It has just been frontline diff so far, because the way that they have played these, you want to talk about what tank switching means, well, what does that phrase really entail? Watch a fight like that for the Jade Dragons, where Mike goes in, gets a lot of buttons used on him, forces some cooldowns, then he comes out, FineOK comes in, puts pressure on the same people that Mike was just hitting. Then FineOK comes out, and then Sam is in over the top. And just beautiful use of this front line. Hurry and Panda Cat play their backline fight well, force Lasber back, forces beads, forces ult, forces blink, and they win their 2v1. And then the rest of the Jade Dragons just dominate the frontline matchup.
A few more seconds left before Barra and Haddix are back, so that's a good opening for the Dragons. They take the right-hand Phoenix. Left has respawned.
Plus Haddix, it's zoning Ven and Barra. When Barra is stepping up to try and help via damage, which sometimes you need to do, that's exactly when Sam times his jump over the top. And that's not luck by the Jade Dragons. It's them waiting for the bolts to play into their hands and knowing that their front line can take that punishment long enough.
A blink forward from Mike onto the left side Phoenix. It's already weakened from being taken down earlier on. He's not going to be able to find anybody with his ult. Blink down, ult down now for Mike. Opens up the opportunity for Haddix to blink forward. Great dash on the other side. Means no relics used. Panda Cat has got his beats back. And that bird falls faster than I think the bolts could potentially even spell the word bird.
Yeah, it wasn't long for this world on that left-hand side. So now it's just 1 Phoenix remaining. That right side is pushing into the Bolts base. Their Phase 3 playoff lives are already on the edge.
Yeah, this is definitely a difficult position. Almost 15,000 gold, 31 minutes in here for the Dragons. 1 Phoenix and 5 pesky members of the Bolts standing between them and the Titan as of right now. They've got fire minions over on right. A full minion wave actually in the Titan room as of right now. But the Bolts aren't going to be too worried about that. Easy clear for them. Now it's just the grouping. Good wall, isolates Panda Cat, but Jake not able to find the kill. FineOK potentially is going to lock up Haddix here for the rest of the team, but they're getting aggressive. This middle Phoenix is taken down, and now the fight's going to go ahead and kick off. Aggression from Mike. Jake is dead. Haddix pulled back into him. Lasbra as well is just getting isolated and locked down. Great snipe from Venenu. Hits Hurwin, gets him low, but no follow-up damage means that there's still 5 strong on the Dragons, and they're taking them down 1 by 1. They walk forward 3 games in a row, and the Dragons are back.
Look, if you had a coma from Phase 1 until now, first of all, I'm glad you're doing better. Secondly, you would think that this has just been the way the Jade Dragons have handled things from Phase 1 on.
A little bit, but still kind of maintain control. Yeah, maybe this is the gold tree still you get a good look at. It's Hurrywin. It actually takes it away. I believe Ven tried to set up the 1-4 combo, and between the first and the ultimate, it just gets taken.
Yeah,
before the
Searing
ult gets,
Pain
that's tough.
right at the end there. Unfortunate timing. But that flips this game around. We're so close going into that Gold Fury. And then the Fenrir, which we figured Myth would have a good time in the early game, ended up picking things back up here for Sam for Soccer later on into this game. Himself and Mike and FineOK as well in that Milan. The front line for the Dragons really felt consistent and effective in buying space for the carries.
I mean, Aggro highlighted it so well, man. Sanford Soccer is allowed to play Fenrir not only into Ra, but also Shibalanke, two insane counter matchups for him. Mike's space creation this game was ridiculous. I think I was sitting back there with Ro, and Ro goes, man, Mike, he just walks up to the team fight, he blinks in, he presses 4, and it bodies us. It just bodies us. And he was right. I mean, he was taking every single set of beads, and once those beads were down, you better believe Final K was there simply doing Mulan things, and now in 8.11, Mulan things are pretty good, especially with this new Sundering Axe style of play. Look, it's hard to argue against what the Jade Dragons have been bringing because we haven't seen it faulted just yet.
I do want to say in that final highlight, I saw Ven's Book of the Dead proc, and it was like
his whole
75% of his health bar, something wild like that. Final K on the Mulan yet again here, 26,000 damage. Like they can win the entire tournament.
But they've got a significant wall ahead of them, Dave, right? I mean, they got to line up against the Atlantis Leviathans next. They earned that right by 3-0ing the Olympus Bolts. Sure, they've got momentum, but it's scary.
That's right. The Camelot Kings versus the Solar Scarabs. That'll be our next matchup here today. And that one becomes sneaky, I think, very important and also very good. This Solar Scarabs team, not one to be pushovers in many of their sets. They've taken most of the teams in the league to the absolute limit in the sets that they have played.
Oh, excuse me.
And so watching the Solar Scarabs versus the Camelot Kings in our second matchup of the day will be exciting. No, Miff, I think I set you up improperly. I was saying the Leviathans versus the Dragons all day, but Titans versus Dragons, that one still very exciting nonetheless to start off our day tomorrow in our first semifinal. Remember, the winners of those semifinals, all you got to do to make it to the Smite World Championship without going through that play-in bracket is making it